For those of you who don't know, Asheron's Call is a sandbox MMO that was created before World of Warcraft ruined everything. And so you have this world, and I'm going to really quick just click into this so we can actually show you. This is the world of Dareth, and it is very large. It's like, I think, a fourth or a fifth of Daggerfall's size. Pretty small, you know. It's not the size of Great Britain. That you can approach things in pretty much any order you want, other than the Direlands over here, which is super high level content, and very specific areas where you'll encounter enemies and you'll try to identify them. And it's like question mark. Oh, these guys are way stronger than me. Okay. So there are specific islands and things which are also very high level content. But for the most part, you can engage things pretty naturally as you explore and fulfill quests. Quests are pretty basic, and they're usually administered just go get item for me, and they expect you to actually go and raid a dungeon and things like that. It's very basic because the storyline is something that it exists as a backstory. You aren't actually participating in epic events to save the world. Those epic events already happened, and they happened occasionally as part of events. But for the most part, your day-to-day life as an adventurer is you gathering loot, getting experience, hunting down enemies, things like that. You're basically explorers and adventurers, and you are not epic heroes on a quest to save the world. It makes more sense when you look at it, because this is a game where hundreds of people, gather together in one place and do stuff. So, well, we're all epic heroes. That doesn't make too much sense, right? What do you think, Con, about the direction World of Warcraft and these other MMOs have gone?
Okay, before I answer that, where are you right now?
You can just type AH /AH and it'll
Okay.
teleport you to our hometown.
Now, about EverQuest. Well, before we talk about WoW, we have to talk about EverQuest
Mm-hmm.
because EverQuest really made a big departure from like Ultima Online and this game.
Yes.
And I am not I really was not a fan of that. I mean, I liked WoW when I first started out, primarily because of the world. And it was frustrating to me from the very beginning, actually, that I was made to complete all the Duratar content before I could advance to the Barrens and so on and so forth. I wanted to go out and explore the world, and in the what is now known as the theme park style of
Mm-hmm.
MMOs, I am not able to do that.
Yes.
And
Exactly.
this kind of game, what I really like about it is the exploration. We can go anywhere and do anything, and you can find creatures of all levels pretty much wherever you are. So
Yep.
there's no set progression path. You can
Follow
go
me,
far and wide.
by the way. Just
And
follow
in
me.
fact, like one great example is I remember we were doing one of the initial quests. It was like a level 10 quest for new players where we were
Hmm?
supposed to go through a dungeon and find some object. But if we went down into the lower depths of that same dungeon, there were like level 60 golems in the level 10 area.
Yes, exactly. So there's a reason to go back the newbie area, and newbies will look at this like, well, I'm not good to fight these yet. I'm going to stay up on the higher levels. It makes more sense when you think about it. It both gives you a sense that the world is, somewhat real, because you don't have this staggered progression like, oh, well, first you're level 1 to 10 here, level 20 to 40, so on. It's not that. That's not how it works. So, um, but uh, getting back on track more, The point is that this is more of a sandbox world. It does have World of Warcraft style quests. Go here, get thing. But those usually have you traveling across, tens or possibly hundreds of miles. And it does feel like an adventure as opposed to any kind of menial task, I would say. Now, we actually didn't sit down here to talk about Asheron's Call specifically, but I wanted people to know what we were playing, what we were discussing, or what was going on in the background. We actually, I wanted to establish first and foremost what we were going to be talking about. Let's see. This is levels 1 to 20, so we can't actually go in here right now. Let's see. This is a newbie dungeon. So,
we're too powerful.
yeah, we are too powerful to go in there right now. See, these are the intro areas, and then you branch out a bit, and then everything just opens up. And so I'm looking right now at anything that might be like an Althoi Caverns over here. See, that's level 80 plus. So we are actually, get this, we are very close to a level 80. Yeah, it's only 4 meters that way. Oh boy, that's
If you come out of your like level 2 newbie dungeon,
yeah.
like the tutorial area, and you go like 3 steps over the hill in the wrong direction, you're gonna get absolutely annihilated by
Yeah.
the Orthoi.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there's a hollow layer over here that's restricted to level 20 plus. So let's go over there. It's in a slightly different direction from the Althoi, that's for sure. But all right, so basically this game was shut down. This game is Abandonware, basically. And I like how Penguin here, he was best man at my wedding, and he's saying you got a Hori Madiger. He's talking about the robes that wizards would get back in Asheron's Call, like the the Hori Madiger robes. Like they were the best robes that a sorcerer could get. So yeah. Anyway, back on track though for the discussion. So this game was shut down. It's Abandonware. The company, the publisher, shut it down because they wanted everyone to focus on Lord of the Rings Online. By the way, that didn't translate into new Lord of the Rings Online players, so that was a kind of a failure. Anyway, what ended up happening is the what do you call it? Jeez. These emulated servers started popping up. And what they're doing is they are slowly populating in the database with all of the things that the game used to have. Like the Lifestone framework has more or less reconstructed Asheron's Call completely. Reverse engineered it, a server that runs almost perfectly to the way the game used to run. And because of that, let me actually turn on buffs. So I have a bot that will actually buff myself, and that's on right now. But I'm going to go over to you, and I'm going to make sure that you have buffs. Okay, so here we go. As I was saying, though, we are... oh, wow, you actually have a good set of buffs on you right now. Believe it or not, you are in good condition. It's kind of impressive, actually.
I have no idea how that is because I'm still wearing the Path Warden pants.
Yeah. That explains things. Okay, so basically the Lifestone framework has given everyone a way to emulate the server. And then these 2 frameworks that are built on top of it, one is called ACE and the other is called GDEAC.
GDLE.
GDEAC? GDLEAC? Point is, there are 2 separate frameworks that are building databases based on the Lifestone framework. And they are populating in all of the monsters and items and things. So we're going to kind of try to run past these, but as they aggro, we'll kill them. No big deal, really. Hopefully they don't aggro, but you know, Azure Grommy suddenly pops up behind me, I assume. Yes. So we kill that thing. Problem there. Low level garbage. I've got a Jade Grommy tooth I can turn into a collector for some reward. But yeah, so the idea is that these two frameworks are going and they are producing new content, or not new content, but they're reproducing the old content. They're restoring it to the game, making it fully playable as it was. And that's where we're kind of in an interesting position right now. Because these games, like, these projects are all based on open sourced software. You know, the actual Asheron's Call is an intellectual property that is, you know, still owned, but it's abandonware. So we just kind of shrug and say, well, it's okay, you know, even though maybe it's not okay. So, but the actual frameworks, you know, GD, LEAC, and ACE are both open source, and so they are subject to licenses. And I'd like Yukon just to introduce us to how open source software works, assuming that the viewer knows nothing about it. Okay, like we're talking baby's first open source introduction here. Tell us.
Okay, well, first of all, slight correction. The ACE admins will tell you
Mhm.
that as far as the art and the content and all of that stuff goes, it's repackaged in their own file format. So
Okay.
they have their own container for it. And that is not identical to the vanilla content.
Okay.
So, with that out of the way the Lifestone framework works and ACE and GDLE and all of these things, they are publicly available and released for free under an open source license, which means, of course, that anybody who uses this program should be able to view the source code and be able to make modifications of it and rebuild the program with their modifications. Now, the specific license that all of this stuff uses also requires that if you make modifications to ACE or GDLE or any of that stuff, you also need to release your modified version and have that be publicly available as well.
Okay. Makes sense to me.
And so I guess now we're going to talk about Drunkenfell.
Yes.
Because
I was gonna say that. Well, tell me, like, why is it important? Like, I was kind of more aiming for a broad view of open source. Is like, why is this kind of thing important to open source and to like software in general?
well, there's a number of reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, obviously the most obvious one is collaboration,
Mm-hmm.
because if something is publicly available, you are able to combine forces and have people who you don't know come in from the outside and contribute. So with, like, for example, the Linux kernel, you have Intel and AMD and Nvidia and Microsoft and IBM all contributing code that their employees are working on to the same project, and that benefits everybody.
Okay.
And then on the flip side of that, it also helps prevent, it's like free auditing.
Mm-hmm.
So the more eyes you have on the source code, the easier it is to build a secure program, because more people are there looking for exploits making sure that everything is above board. This actually just happened this week with Huawei had a large patch rejected from merger into Linux because there were too many exploits and holes in their code.
Okay.
And so Huawei had their shit rejected and thrown out.
Okay.
Now, also just in terms of freedom, which is what started all this, the free software movement was what birthed Linux and all of this other free software, is the idea that like what Microsoft does with Windows 10 or what Google does with its proprietary Android stuff or iOS with Apple, they all want to do things with their operating system without the user's consent, including, of course, like having key loggers built into the operating system and all kinds of other fun stuff, like backdoors for the NSA and all these other guys.
Yeah. So if they have to do that, like if the Australian government uses the assistance access bill to force these publishers or these software developers to put back holes or put back doors in their code because of open source, you would know about it and you would actually be able to remove it in your own version of the compile, right?
Exactly. With the Huawei patch that I was just talking about, there was some conjecture that these exploits they found were intentional
Mm-hmm.
to allow people to enter through the exploits. And so that's the kind of thing, that's why it got thrown out, because that's what a backdoor is. That's an exploit that is known
Yeah.
to a certain party.
Yeah. Makes sense to me. Okay, so now that we've established why this is important to open source, we can talk about the fact that obviously we're running like the Lifestone framework and by Ace and all of this stuff. This is all open source, like built on top of another on top of another. How does Drunkenfell come into the situation?
Okay, so Drunkenfell did something that is perfectly fine.
Well, let's talk
They
about
took,
Drunkenfell first and foremost. Like,
okay,
Drunkenfell is so we're running on an Ace server right now using the Ace framework. So, built atop Ace is Drunkenfell. The idea of Ace is they're trying to replicate Asheron's call into retail as closely as possible. Then above that is Drunkenfell, where we're gonna take Ace and we're going to modify it. We're gonna change it and add new dungeons, new enemies, new items, new challenges. We're gonna make events happen. We're basically gonna breathe life back into the game by adding new stuff. That was the concept of the Drunkenfell server originally. All right, now that we've established that, go on, Con.
okay, so Drunkenfell, in their effort to add new things,
Mm-hmm.
that's perfectly allowed and perfectly fine. What they didn't do was that they didn't publish their changes.
Mm-hmm.
And this is not what you're supposed to do. They're supposed to publish everything that's within the terms of the license.
Mm-hmm.
And the, Drunkenfell is actually a great case study in why open source licensing helps developers.
Mm-hmm.
Because the guy who basically runs Drunkenfell, for many months, the server had all kinds of lag and terrible issues. And
Right.
he was trying to track this down. They even moved to a new server, and that didn't help.
Okay.
So they established that the problem was in the content database, the things that they had added, their extra content, something in that was causing issues.
Right.
So he spent a lot of time trying to track it down, and
Mm-hmm.
he, according to what he says, he did isolate the problem. Now the issue was that he felt that correcting the problem parts would be too much effort, to kind of cherry pick those issues and get rid of them. And
Hmm.
so ultimately, he decided to just wipe the entire Drunkenfell database and start over from scratch. Now,
Okay. If let me ask you a question then. If a team let's just say that if it were on GitHub and it were available to other people, a third party, say someone from Ace itself or just a contributor, could come over and look and say, "Oh, well, you got a problem here, here, and there."
yeah, literally anybody who played on Drunkenfell, or even just an Ace person, anybody who was interested in the community as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
could take a look at that and help them with their problem. Now, that was impossible to do because the Drunkenfell guy did not share anything that was going on Drunkenfell. So it was all on him. And in fact, I'll do you one better. If
Mm-hmm.
it was open source and properly tracked using Git, which is a tracking system for
Mm-hmm.
software, including Ace uses it,
Yeah.
he could easily undo the additions of the problematic item in one simple motion.
Right, because you would have a list of all the commits.
Yes, every single change that had ever been made in sequential order would be there in public for everybody to see, and they could easily see the specific changes that were made. And then once the problem areas were identified, all you have to do is undo those specific things. I'm done.
Right. Okay, let's see here. I'd click on you, and then I would click the heal other button. That should do it. Along with stamina other, so we get your stamina capped out. Oh, fizzled there. Spell failure. We don't do that in MMOs.
Now, yeah, exactly. Now,
Well,
I did talk to the Ace guy, and I
mhm.
asked him, well, one of the lead developers. There's several of them, three,
Yes.
I think. I talked to one of the guys, and he told me, well, it would certainly be nice if the people making modified servers followed the license and played by the rules and published their modification.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, avoiding another Drunkenfell incident would be just one advantage of that.
Yeah.
But like he said, they don't really have any enforcement mechanism. All they can do is ask politely that
Mm.
people abide by the license.
But these people are in violation of license. It's we get that this is like work built on top of work built on top of work. So establishing intellectual property is interesting. But at the end of the day, even people who do derivative work still have their own version of a copyright. And being in violation of an open sourced license, it can actually be serious. And assuming the people were driven enough, they could take the Drunkenfell people to court, couldn't they?
That is technically accurate, eh, although,
Not practically true, but
yeah,
okay. So there's a difference between what is practically true and what is factually true. That's an important distinction. Like, it's not practical for them to take him to court. I'm just asking, would it be within their legal rights to do it?
arguably, yes. Although the Ace guy said,
Hmm.
um, because this dispute arises from the content database, which is different from the server database,
Okay.
this is especially finicky territory because
Right.
obviously all the content is the assets were not originally designed by them. They have the container and the
Hmm.
file format is different. The way that this art is encoded is different from the original. But that's a
Okay.
area that they don't want to get into.
Let me figure this out. Okay, so basically, the origin of this data is obviously Asheron's Call itself, the original intellectual property holders, but then it's been re-encoded, meaning that it has had changes made to it. Therefore, this is what we call derivative work.
Yes, it's original work in the sense that they have basically re-encoded and reformatted the data.
So, the point is that the law actually allows for the protection of derivative work. And that's an important thing to understand. It's a level 80 enemy, by the way. I'm trying to heal
he
you.
hurt quite a bit.
Trying to heal you.
I have about... I'm gonna need a bit bigger heals than that.
Keep going. Keep going.
Run away now. Okay, let's see if we can finish this guy off.
Yes, I'm still healing you. Don't worry about it. Are you hitting him?
I'm occasionally hitting him. There's a lot of swishing going on where he's evading.
I restored your stamina, and now I'm healing you. Yes, I'm still healing you. Still healing you. That was a critical heal. Oh, boy.
Are you getting hit?
I got hit once. I'm fine, though. I'm gonna back up a smidgen. Then I'm gonna heal you again. Okay. Got a critical heal in.
So he's got... Oh, he's almost dead.
Good. Keep it up. We'll be backing off after this, since we reached a wing of the dungeon, which has level 80s. But, yeah. Grab that bandana. There's a health elixir if you want. Drop in the corpse. Drop the corpse. Back. But yeah, that's pretty much just, it's interesting because, you know, a lot of the problems Drunkenfell was having wouldn't have existed in the first place if they had, yeah, these guys are easy. Yeah, take them on.
Yeah, exactly. If they had just abided by the rules, they could have avoided the entire incident. This went on for months, too. They spent months trying to fix this. Imagine the wasted effort and wasted time.
Yeah.
Just because he didn't want to share his modification.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, there was a team involved, but the one guy, the admin, was basically implementing them all and holding on to the master database.
Yeah, that's unfortunate because I'm more along the lines of thinking, okay, well, if you had, you know, like let's talk about GitHub for a moment. A lot of people don't know what GitHub is. Could you enlighten them?
Well, GitHub is simply a version, like a website hosted by Microsoft that you can use Git with to host your Git repository.
Yes.
Now, Git itself is software that you run on your computer that uploads changes to any website that you pointed to. And wherever your Git server is located, it will take that list. It will have a copy of your program installed on the server that anybody you work with can download at any time. So you can easily share with your contributors. And then if somebody makes a change that they're working on, say I'm coding on my computer and I made a new version of something, and I'm gonna, or even just one file. If I change one file in the entire project, I can then upload that change to the master copy, and everybody else can download it to be updated immediately.
So what used to be painstaking work of like uploading and tracking versions and stuff like that has been simplified and streamlined to the point where it's almost industrialized.
Yes, exactly. Like, I know how to use Git, and I am not a developer whatsoever.
So, in other words, it for you, like, if you were just a casual programmer on the site, it doesn't really add a lot of overhead or work. Like, it wouldn't ruin the fun of you being just a weekend warrior programmer. It would just be something that you click and you forget about, right?
Exactly. You can learn how this whole thing works in 20 minutes.
So, in other words, you can say, well, he's not a professional developer. This is his side, like, it isn't even a side job. It's just something he does for fun. That argument doesn't hold any water for this, right?
No, that's foolish. If he knows how to manage the database, he sure as hell is able to operate Git.
Okay. So, I wanted to cover that because that is a problem some people have from time to time.
Yes.
All right. Level 40 Drudge Lurker around the corner. Um, yeah, so my point more than anything is that, like, there is really no excuse for them not, having this out and front and center. Like, not only from a, well, we need to audit these people in case they're doing something shady. No, that isn't even, like, doesn't even enter into the equation. It's about having it there where, oh, let's revert this change, revert that change, revert that change, and then, oh, it turns out it was this thing that was the problem. Okay, re-implement all those changes, but accept this one, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying is, at the end of the day, it would have taken this whole fiasco, where the server was having lag and issues, and they eventually removed all of um they removed
Everything. They
yeah.
just deleted everything. They're basically starting over with a new copy of 8.
Oh, I didn't realize it was that bad. I thought they just purged the character database.
Oh no, it's not just characters because characters weren't the problem. It was stuff that they had added. And he admitted that in the course of when they were adding their new content, in the beginning, they didn't really know what they were doing. And so they made errors
Hmm.
in how they added some this new stuff. And that was what was dragging down the entire server.
Right.
And so all of their new content that they added, that they touted as, a more advanced end game for, end game
Mm-hmm.
players, that's all gone. And they have to, I don't know if they plan to recreate the same stuff, but they're talking about basically just doing new content.
Yeah. That's very unfortunate. But
Hmm.
I mean, is there anything else you want to say about this topic? I mean, we've basically covered all the important things, like why is open source important? Like why is this particular thing important to open source? How how what Git is, why you should be using it. This server was supposed to be a new end game to a very old game, like brand new content for someone who quit Asheron's Call at the end of its life and wanted to just have new adventures in this sandbox world. Like, and now all of that new content is gone, all because of bad planning. What do you have to say about that?
Yeah, well, this is exactly why this is a case study for why open source is good and proprietary is bad. Because
Right.
forget about the license, forget about GitHub. Let's just assume that this was their own little thing they were doing. I would still encourage them to have open source this because, it helps everybody, first
Mhm.
of all. Other people would be able to see what you had done and maybe replicate that and come up with their own adventures. What if I'm somebody who wanted to help make a new adventure in Asheron's Call, but I didn't have the technical skill? Or I didn't have the expertise about the specifics of the Asheron's Call code base. I
Right.
could look at what the Drunkenfell people had done to add new items or add new enemies, and I could kind of copy the basics of what they had done just with my own stuff.
Right.
So that's one thing that helped. The other, as we already discussed, is code review so that other people can help you find problems before they become problems
Mhm.
or help you troubleshoot things after the fact.
Yeah.
Then, of course, there's just the principle of modification, which is one of the basics of open source. The idea that you're supposed to be able, like, if somebody else was playing this, I'm going to take this finesse weapon.
Okay.
If somebody else was playing this and they wanted to learn and understand how this works, or maybe they didn't like something in Drunkenfell and
Mm-hmm.
they wanted to tweak it themselves. They
Okay.
wanted to maybe knock down a wall here or something as trivial as that.
Mm-hmm.
They could, the freedom of open source, why they call it free software, is that you have the freedom to go into the code and knock down that wall yourself. Because maybe, and this we know for a fact, there have been disagreements on content
Mm-hmm.
within the Asheron's Call community. And one way that you could solve that is that people who wanted things a certain way could just take this stuff and go make their own modified version.
Yeah.
That's what Drunkenfell has done. That's how Drunkenfell started. And
Exactly.
I'm almost dead.
Oh,
So
there
if
we go.
Drunkenfell started this way, it's also incumbent upon them to allow others to do the same.
That's right. That is exactly what I was getting at. It's like you want to benefit from the same system that you are rejecting, either through ignorance or through a desire to keep it in house. Selfishness, more or less.
Exactly. And that is why the license is written the way that it is. It mandates this, that your modification must also be shared, and
Mm-hmm.
it also must carry the same license. So that's how, this is why the GPL, which is the GNU public license,
Mm-hmm.
which is the bedrock of most free software, it's called a strong copy left license, because the whole principle of open source licensing was to use intellectual property law to kind of fight against the closed, commercialized concept of, well, this is mine, you can't use it, we won't share it, so on.
Yeah.
So they're using copyright law or intellectual property law to mandate that you must share and you must allow an open chain of modifications and distribution.
Hmm?
And so for Drunkenfell to violate that is, they did it from out of laziness, but it's also extremely selfish and undermines what the entire rest of the community was doing and working on, in
Yeah.
that sense, if you ask me. Because the whole reason the terms of the license exist is to help everybody.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. Yeah, the reason I got into the whole concept of the GitHub, and I started talking about GitHub, is because at the end of the day, a lot of people did tell me, that they tend to jump at this. Well, this isn't his job, so he shouldn't be held to professional standards. And it's a case of, like, I'm just saying, once you start taking advantage of the open source license, like, which allows you to, in the very first place, take this content and start editing it, you are required to follow it. Like, if he doesn't want to follow it, he should be you doing it from scratch, I guess.
Well, that's basically where they're at now. Exactly. They are still starting with Ace, I guess, so they're
Yeah.
not starting from scratch. Yeah, but if they really, really did not want anybody else to see what they were doing, they would have to. They wouldn't be allowed to use the Lifestone framework. They wouldn't be allowed to use Ace or GDLE. They'd have to take their Asheron's Call original CDs and reverse engineer the entire thing themselves.
Exactly. So
Which given the experience that he had with managing the Drunkenfell server, I don't think he has the expertise to do
right.
that.
I don't want to get adversarial. With the developer of this. What I want to do is I want to explain away to the people who would um, try to white knight for the way things are done right now to, more or less uphold the status quo about how the server is run. That's what I'm getting at. That's where.
Well,
Go on.
yes, exactly. One thing I would point out, and I enjoyed my time on
Me
Drunkenfell. I
too.
just wish it was run a little bit better. The problem with their philosophy is the guy talked about in his post talking about why they were doing the wipe, he referred to other community servers as competitors. And that is a
Oh,
mindset which is very troubling because if you
oh.
go on the ACE like Discord server, for example, they list a number of different servers. You know, it's
Mm-hmm.
all the Asheron's Call community. We have websites that list all the other servers. Throggle Launcher lists dozens,
Mm-hmm.
and the concept here is that everybody should work together, and to refer to other servers as competitors is betrays the fact that they aren't on the same page with everybody else. They want to
Mm.
benefit, but they have the mindset that they are trying to stand alone in that way. And
Yeah.
even the ACE admin said the only reason that a server would have not to share their modifications would be to, in his words, create a false sense of difference from the other.
Mm. Yeah. I don't know. It's just that is a disturbing thing. Like I didn't realize he said the competition, and that's just hitting me right now because remember I mentioned I love Drunkenfell's concept, and I want people to come to this and go to the GitHub and help them. Help them get this going, and so you know. That's why I'm just like the competition. Really?
Yeah, exactly. It's crazy. This game came out in 1999, for God's sake. Who are you competing against? And why do you have the mindset that you want to do this all on your own and stand apart from everybody else?
Yeah, I don't know. No. Oh, you're dead.
Yes, something hit me as well as we were discussing. Now, if you have my corpse there,
Permit me to loot it, and I'll grab the stuff and teleport back to the Alliance headquarters. Yeah.
are you Zhakaron?
Yes. Well, Zaric space Zhakaron. Yes.
Uh, is it's slash permit, right?
Yeah. Slash permit and then space add and then in quotes my full name. You can find me in the.
Zaric Zhakaron is not online. I think
Okay,
you
try
are just.
not quotes then. Yeah.
Zaric Zhakaron is not accepting corpse looting permission.
Okay, so I know what happened. Um, my client settings got wiped when I logged onto a new PC. So what I need to do is I need to find the allow corpse looting permissions option, and I don't understand why you would do. Ah, here we go. Accept corpse. Re-enter the command now. Also attempt.
Yes, you have permission.
Okay. I have permission to loot your corpse. You've got coalesced. Okay, you got 80 skeleton minion essence and a lavender jade. Then I'm gonna ALH out of here. So I'll meet you at the Alliance headquarters in a second after I do this laggy spin to win. Spin to leave? Spin to quit?
Spin to leave.
Spin to quit. Oh boy. Spin to give up.
Now, when I mentioned dozens of servers, somebody
Mhm.
in chat said that's a lot of people. Well, that's the thing. It's not that many
I
people.
showed no, Con. I showed tree stats at the time.
Okay.
They saw the numbers. So they were looking at the actual server numbers and going, that's a lot of people.
Yes.
Come on
It's
over.
decent sized, but it's still niche compared to basically like any major
Neverwinter
game
Nights
right
is
now.
bigger than this.
Yeah, exactly.
So, come on over to me, and I'll give you your stuff. See, you're kind of over there around the.
Oh, are you in Sanamar or
Oh, I'm
whatever?
not Santamar, just ALH. Come on over to the Bindstone.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh god, Java emulation. That sounds horrible.
Lineage 2 servers running on Java. Oh boy. Hey, I mean, it'll work on Linux, it'll work on Windows, it'll work on your cell phone.
Yes.
Gotta run a Lineage 2
At 10
server off your cell
FPS.
phone. Oh boy. Let's see here. All right, I've got to figure out where in the bag it's located. Go. That's 1. That's 2. That's what you dropped. Oh.
Yes, thank you.
Yep. There. By the way, there are no Arcanum brokers here because that's a Drunkenfell thing. So you have to actually go to the specific spots in town and sell to the individual
Yes.
vendors. I know that was the one great thing about Drunkenfell is they added a vendor right here next to the blacksmith who bought everything. So like the blacksmith only buys certain things, where the mage vendor only buys certain things, the potion vendor only buys certain things, but the Arcanum broker who they just stuffed right here next to the blacksmith, he bought everything, and that was kind of hilarious. But yeah, okay, so my point about this whole conversation is that I really like Drunkenfell, okay? Like, I really enjoy the server as it was, when it wasn't lagging to death. I just think they really need to start conforming to the license by which Cold Eve, or by the Ace framework, which by the Lifestone framework, um, it was requiring them to publish their changes. All I want them to do is set up a GitHub and use the GitHub. And once they do that, then we, like, the community could fix the problem. Like, I want Drunkenfell to be successful because I want a place I can play on with new content. Like, the idea of this old game, which has been abandoned by the publisher, the developers were all laid off. The idea that it could get new content, that is something I want. And I'm willing to support Drunkenfell as long as Drunkenfell actually kind of takes the job seriously. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. What it comes down to is all they have to do is be a team player and not, in the words of the Ace guy, try to create some sort of artificial distinction between them and everybody else in the community.
Right.
There's no benefit to doing that. They're not making any money off of this, even if they have the best exclusive content. Well, if that's true, every people would play on that.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the case. Drunkenfell was the second most popular Ace server
Mm-hmm.
after the vanilla Cold Eve. And so there was definitely a market for it. They didn't gain anything by hiding everything away. They actually literally destroyed everything that they had worked on as a result of that. And if they had just been a team player and conformed to what everybody else was doing, as you said,
Mm-hmm.
they wouldn't have lost anything. They would have just gotten help, possibly, that could have saved them.
That's right. I mean, again, let's cycle back to the competitors concept. Like, if someone were to take your work and then do it better than you, isn't that giving you then a place to go to and be like, wow, someone did my job but better? I'm loving, like, I get to experience this content, but better.
Let's actually, I want to reference OpenMW real quick
Okay.
because this actually happens there several times.
Mhm.
Somebody new has joined the OpenMW team. They don't like officially join, there's no process, but they show up on GitHub or GitLab and they just drop new code. They drop in their
Let's go this way.
shadows.
With
They drop in
7 meters this
they
way.
drop
Go on.
yeah. So they drop in shadows, they drop in a rework of the physics, and they say, "Hey, look at this thing I have. Isn't this cool? Do you think you could add this to OpenMW?" And then people say, "Hey, look at this guy. We weren't able to do that. We worked on this for 2 years and gave up. And this guy has the answer to that thing that we were working
Okay,
on or looking at."
let's talk practical stuff. Shadows as well as distant object loading are both being done by seemingly people that just popped into the community out of nowhere.
Yes.
So, like, OpenMW, the open sourced Morrowind engine, is getting contributors. Like, even Daggerfall Unity. Like, Daggerfall Unity is getting support from folks that, like, all of these systems and improvements, controller support, all these things that people have been asking for are coming into the system by way of unsolicited,
Competitors.
yeah, quote unquote competitors. But I'm looking at it more like, okay, so a quote unquote competitor comes in and uses your code to make something better than you. Let me ask you something. Would you then learn from that and maybe do their quote unquote better way because they are required to follow the same license as you?
Yes, exactly. You are free to review what they're doing and say, "Hey, I could actually use this technique to improve other things that I had already done in the past." And that happens. People re-optimize and rebase their code all the time.
Hmm?
Well, good developers do.
Good developers do, yes.
That's a principle of development is optimization.
Yes. Okay, so basically, it's a two-way street, and their main concern when they said competitors, because it still throws me for a loop. They said that. Their main concern is that their server is being played due to proprietary changes, and that people wouldn't play that, like someone else will go and grab their stuff and then do it better than them, and therefore they will lose those players who joined this server. I think that's the mindset where this is coming from.
Yes, they fear that if they publish their changes, somebody would clone Drunkenfell and either do one of two things. They would run the exact same copy of Drunkenfell with a better server hardware or better administration and skew their player base, or they would do all that and then add additional things on top of the Drunkenfell content.
Hmm.
Neither one of those possibilities is bad for anybody. Even the staff of Drunkenfell would benefit from somebody else coming in and hosting it on a better, paying their money to host it on a better server
Hmm.
hardware, or adding in new content. Isn't that the whole point of Drunkenfell? Now,
Right.
the Drunkenfell people, I suppose they had like a design philosophy and they wanted to do things a certain way with their new stuff, which is fine. But if somebody is passionate about your new content and wants to build on top of that, I don't see why it would be such a problem to work alongside them.
I think that because they view their community like a kind of currency. Like, we have this many players, and oh no, these players are, might might leave the server, therefore killing the server because someone stole our stuff. Like, I don't think they're thinking it through any further than that.
Yeah, exactly. They haven't. We've thought about these concepts more in like a half-hour stream here than the Drunkenfell staff have over the course of months. They thought about it on a very shallow surface level and then locked into that. And they don't even understand how the rest of the Asheron's Call community is operating. They're working on a totally different mindset.
Right. Yeah, it's just it was virtually impossible for folks to talk on their Discord server. I found certain people with concerns or ideas. They get their post deleted, stuff like that. It's kind of like the way I run my Discord server, except my Discord server is literally just a community hub for me to talk about things with viewers. It's not like I'm trying to run a project or anything. Um, it I like if I would not run a project the same way I run my Discord server, and I feel like they're running they're running their project the way I run my Discord server.
Well, this might I was actually going to say that the way they're moderating their Discord server reminds me a little bit of the Skyrim Together server.
Really? Okay. Yeah. I could see that. I could see that. Uh, there are a lot of people who I said were white knighting the way the project is being done right now and are very resistant to ideas. Um,
Hmm.
and that is very that's a toxic and dangerous mindset in general. The idea of uh, well, this person. No, I know what it is. Not invented here syndrome. That's what it is. Not invented
Yes.
here syndrome. If I didn't come up with the idea or it wasn't made by the people I respect, then obviously we're not going to consider it.
If
Eh,
an outsider has an idea, it must obviously be flawed in some way or
yes.
inferior to ours.
Yeah. Anyway, that's. I'm not saying that is the actual complete point of view everyone has. I'm saying that is the prevailing point of view that was expressed to me by virtue of um the um
Interactions you had
interactions
with
I
them.
had. Yes, exactly. And so if there are better angels present, they were not there for the conversations that I witnessed. That's what I'm saying. So,
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I have had in the limited conversations I had on the Drunkenfell um, server with other members there of the staff or whatever you want to call it, moderation team,
hmm,
they were extremely defensive. And I'm not even I like I said, I play on the server. I'm not particularly critical of anything that goes on there,
hmm,
but they have reaction where unless you are glowing in everything that you say, they might take it the wrong way and get defensive about it. And that does not bode well for the project in general. But then it foreshadows the kind of competition comments that we saw,
hmm,
from the admins there
yep.
at the end.
Stop moving. I'm here on the radar.
Oh yes, you're going in the other direction.
Yes. That's why I was noticing your dot moving like in time with mine, and I'm like, no, no, no. I'm gonna have to start giving you coordinates if you go any further.
Oh,
Oh,
we're going in here.
yeah, I figured we'd double click it and see what happens. Hmm.
You must complete a quest to interact with
Oh,
the portal.
cool. So this is a quest locked portal. That's interesting. So, all right. Yeah. Okay, you asked, does this game have PvP? This game has, there are PvP servers where everyone can kill everyone. And then it's based on who you swear fealty to. Like, Khan here has sworn fealty to, I believe, Dretch, and Dretch has sworn fealty to Alan, and Alan has sworn fealty to me. Maybe it's in a different order. Doesn't matter. Point is, there is allegiances are based on who like just based on a system of who swears fealty to who. So you can actually break off a chunk of the guild by breaking your oath of allegiance to somebody, and then taking all your followers and going somewhere else. But this is currently an allegiance of 3 like, I have 3 followers. That's basically it. And,
Yes, the king of the 3 people, of
yeah.
course, is Zaric Zhakaron, his little tin crown he's wearing right now.
Yes, exactly. My little tin
And
crown.
my squire, Allenbo, has done some good work for me. He's generated 3 million experience that goes
Yes.
directly into my character.
Yes, exactly. So, but yeah, and on a PvP realm, you'd have allegiances fighting each other for control of areas, and there's no mechanics that say, well, this person has taken control of this area. No. You just, if you see someone in your territory and you don't want them to live anymore, you make them dead. It's that simple. But yeah, this is an open world sandbox game, so it's this server is not PvP. If you want to go PvP, you can type /LPK, and it will flag you for it. And then you can fight other people who have done the same thing. But other than that, you sorry, PKL, doesn't matter. Point is, that doesn't have any meaning other than my character's better than yours. If you really want fights, you go onto a PvP server where it's just straight up everyone for themselves and allegiances rule. But yeah, as I was saying, going back to the topic at hand, the like, again, it bothers me because Drunkenfell seems insulated by those groups of people who were very defensive of the way things are being run right now. We're gonna go over to Rithwick, by the way. I'm just gonna set a beacon there. Okay, it's 8 meters in this, so about as far this way as it took us to go from the previous town.
Well, all you can hope for is that well, this is already not the case, unfortunately. I think they didn't learn anything from the wipe.
Yeah. You
Because
were saying that the only hope is that they could learn something from this and improve.
yeah, exactly, that they would learn that their insulated behavior is
Hmm.
actually contributed to a lot of damage to their community and their server, and they lost, their content in large part because of their attitude.
Right.
Not just their attitude in chat or anything like that, but their attitude towards the community as a whole,
Hmm.
and how they regulate their interactions with other people in the Asheron's Call community.
Yeah, I understand that.
And unfortunately, there's no evidence from what I have seen thus far that they have actually learned anything.
Hmm?
But it's
Yeah.
frustrating as well that the Ace guys, I like I said, I talked to Ripley about this, and he was hesitant to even put out like a PSA about, open source, the license and sharing your modifications.
Yeah. But I mean, all you have to do is look at the actual software, and it says, like, the license information is right there, front and center. There's no excuse.
You don't even have to open the document that says license on it. You can go to the GitHub page, and it says right in the middle of the GitHub page what the license is and
Mm-hmm.
it summarizes the restrictions on the license and the terms, the important terms, including share alike and share modifications. They are
Right.
right there with little check mark.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
It's not rocket science.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because like the server could be so much more successful than it is, and could have so much going for it. I don't know. Go check out that corpse. It's being guarded by two carrion shreths. I'll kill the right one.
You are no longer on my map.
Well, then you should continue. Oh wow, you are. Stop then. Stop moving. I see you. Wait, I see people gathering around you. Oh, there we go. You're having fun, aren't you?
Oh, the usual Tusker butchery.
Yeah. What's that spooky guy there?
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. That was
Don't know.
a treasure of spark.
Huh. Okay, so it was a spark. But yeah,
And his treasure is not particularly valuable.
right. I'm gonna
A
get a
bracelet
fez off of a
worth 100
lizard.
gold.
I'm gonna get a lizard fez. Okay. Um, as I was saying though, yeah, it's just I really want that server to be successful, but I don't think it can be as long as they harbor that kind of mindset.
Hmm.
You called them code dragons. Is that the term for it?
Somebody said,
Code
okay.
dragons piss them off.
I
Hmm.
think somebody said earlier that good contributors are code wizards, and I guess now they're calling the other people code dragons.
My goodness.
Yes.
That's a bit special, but
Hmm.
I could see why terms like that would be thrown around. Yes.
Blue Light asked if it was a GNU type license, and yes, that's exactly what it was. It's a GPL 3. That's what it is. That's the GNU public license.
Yes. That is a tan rat. Yeah, dragons hoard wealth, you say? Oh boy. Okay, well, either way, I understand what you're talking about. A bit silly, but yeah, I mean, I just you're right though. It is a case study as to why not only from a legal perspective, because you could just say, well, I'm going to be authoritarian and say you must do this because I want you to do this. It's not like there are actual reasons behind why they're telling people they should be doing this based on the license. And you shouldn't be using the software if you're not going to abide by the license. It's that simple. So,
And the thing about open source is that even random players or random users can contribute in ways that they can't in proprietary software.
mm-hmm,
So, like for me, for example, I use a lot of stuff. I use OBS, I use OpenMW.
mm-hmm.
Pretty much everything on my system is open source and free software because I'm running on
I
Linux.
was gonna
And
say KDE.
exactly.
Yeah. For those who
All
don't know, Con is running full time, and I'm running like 30% of the time on a Linux variant uh, uh, that basically uses almost all free software. Right.
Yes, most Linux distributions do. And one of the benefits of that is I personally am able, if I have a problem, I can report the bug. And there have been times where I report a bug that's been bothering me for days, and I'm really frustrated. I think this should work a different way. Sometimes it's just a feature request. Sometimes it's a bug. But in both cases, I've had bugs fixed for me the same day that I reported them.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've also had feature requests done for me because I was able to speak. There's contact information. You can go find the developer and you can speak with them and say, well, this is what I'm doing with this. And this is why I think this would be useful for me.
Yeah.
And then you explain that and they say, oh, okay, well, that makes sense. I'll go ahead and add it.
Yeah. No, I agree.
And that kind of customer service you're not going to get from somebody who gets defensive and says, well, how dare you criticize what I'm doing?
Hmm.
I'm the perfect designer. I
I,
know exactly what players want or what users
I
want.
haven't seen that kind of perspective from the developer of Drunkenfell. I've seen that more towards the community that surrounds the developer. Like, again, I mentioned that the developer seems to be insulated in a pocket of people who, how dare you criticize, the guy who's giving us the new stuff, basically.
Okay, the way they've got it laid out, it's hard to tell who's like a contributor and who's
Yeah.
like a random
Honestly, the developer seems like mostly good intentioned, but also
not thinking, really.
not thinking. Yes, that's what I'm saying. So that's why I just again I really want to see this succeed. So yeah, we've just ran from one town to another. That's the amount of time it takes. Like these towns are pretty big. It's why there are portals that lead to this town nexus where you can get from town to town quickly. But there's a lot of stuff in between, and dungeons and things all around. In fact, we've got a lot of dungeons surrounding us right now. Um,
Now on Drunkenfell, this is the cow pen where I jumped on the fence here and was slaughtered.
okay, so you jumped on the fence and then the cow murdered you.
Yeah, there was a level 900 cow
Oh,
in the cow pen.
yes, but you didn't know that that was actually an invasion from another realm. Um,
No, I was not aware that there were secret alien cows
yes,
level 900
yes,
that draw
exactly.
aggro.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. Oh well. Yeah, that's pretty much the long and short of it, though, is that uh, the like the Drunkenfell server on Asheron's Call could have been much better than it is, and unfortunately, out of laziness, they didn't use Git or GitHub, so they couldn't track their changes. Um, and the result is that the community couldn't actually help them with stuff, and as a result, they are violating the license by which this is the software that they're using. Like their very foundation is based on a software license that they are violating. That's number one. Number two is that it like the perspective, like again, when we got into this conversation, I was unaware they used the word competitors, and that is just disturbing. That the answer is do it better. Then, like, if someone steals like steals your code and says, well, I'm gonna do it better because of this or that, steal it back and do it better. It's that simple.
Yeah, in a niche community, it's ridiculous. And you see the difference between the two. Like the Drunkenfell admin used the term competition to describe other servers,
Mm-hmm.
whereas the Ace lead developer said, well, they're all Ace servers just with
Mm-hmm.
different modifications.
That's
You
right.
know, it's 99.999% identical software.
That's right. So that's all I really have to say is I want Drunkenfell to be successful because I love Asheron's Call. I want more Asheron's Call. I want new events, new dungeons, new items, new everything. But we're not going to be able to get that as long to a decent acceptable level. If they aren't open, they aren't actually following the rules. If anything, they're risking getting shut down eventually. As much as we say right now, well, there's no real method that they can enforce it. You don't really know that will always be the case. So they're risking their own project. Period.
Yeah, exactly. And just from their perspective, like they obviously have a team of idea people who come up with what new content they want to put in, but do they really think the best way to handle this is to have one guy who basically manages the database and does all the technical implementation, especially after a cataclysmic event that,
Mm-hmm.
months of buildup and months of difficulties culminated in all of their work being wiped out? Don't you think it would be good for their server to have help, or at least allow people to think about helping?
Yes. I mean, at the very least, there could be someone commenting on the contributions. A GitHub specifically is great because you can have people who are not technically minded who may just spot a typo, and it's happened before. Like I've seen it in projects that you will you'll be racking your brain trying to figure out, well, why isn't this working? Why isn't this working? Comment comes in. You forgot to close that bracket over here on line 364. Well, shit.
That happens literally all the time. Some random guy will come in and make one commit to change one word or change one line of thing, and
Yes.
that's a fix that for something that was a problem.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody who's not a normal everyday developer on that project is able to come in and just, hey, I got this. I can fix this one little thing.
Yeah. So that's just what I want to impress, is that it's beneficial. It's um like it's beneficial to them. It's beneficial to everybody. And it would just make everything so much easier. So, Drunkenfell people, if you're listening here, just consider encouraging the developer to actually abide by the license and share, like, upload properly to GitHub. And I suspect that this would be fixed entirely. So like I would expect the server to jump by leaps and bounds if you had multiple people working on it. I expect that some of the people who are contributors to Ace or other projects would actually consider contributing to Drunkenfell as well. And I don't know. I think that if this was more open, people would consider helping. And I don't want any help. Well, that might be a problem. Let me just throw it your way, Con, and let me ask you something. If I had a strong vision for how I wanted this server to go forward, um, are there any downsides to using Git then?
No, like why would there be? It allows you to track literally every single change to every single file that you have made throughout the entire history of your project, including changes that you undo. There's still a written record that it was undone.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of meticulous tracking, that's the bedrock of good development. That's why every project uses a tracking system. Before Git, there was Subversion or SVN,
Mm-hmm.
and there's other ones that people had used in the past.
So there we have it. If you have a strong vision for how you want your server to be. You have your idea, guys, but you want everything to run through you specifically. You don't want other people making changes. There's still no harm in publishing it.
Lots of people who are solo developers use and show and publish their stuff on GitHub. Many thousands of solo projects are available on GitHub because it helps the developer keep track of their work and is a free backup.
All right. Well, I think we've covered it. Is there anything else you want to say?
Yeah, I do want to point out that somebody in the chat here is exactly correct that a good analogy to Drunkenfell would be Aliens Colonial Marines. One of the reasons that that game was so broken was because of the AI, and the AI was only broken because of a typo in the
Instead of tether to environment, it was teether to environment.
yeah, exactly. That's so ridiculous. But of course, because it's proprietary work, nobody caught it because nobody was looking at it except for the same guy who had been working on the AI code for however long that game was being worked on.
That's right. All right. Well, aside from the comments in chat, then about the overall topic, is there anything else you want to mention?
Well, also that when you talked about collaboration between different ACE servers, that's already happening. If you
Mm-hmm.
go into the ACE Discord, which is separate from the Drunkenfell Discord,
Yes, it is. Oh my, is it? Yes. Talk about professional versus the just like, oh god. I mean, it looks honestly like a meme server half the time on Drunkenfell's Discord.
yeah, a little bit, yes.
Whereas Ace tends to be a bit more professional. But go on.
Yes, on the ACE Discord, you can see that there's discussion between different server people. They all help each other in the development channel. They all discuss bugs that are common to all the servers. Hey, I found this on my server. And can you check this and see if it happens on your server? Yes, it does. It does happen on my server. This is a bug, and we should fix this for everybody.
Hmm?
Now, I actually did a search for in the ACE server, I searched for mentions of Drunkenfell or DF. Now, most of they were few and far in between.
Mm-hmm.
Um, there had been actually very little discussion of Drunkenfell on the ACE Discord, except for like server recommendations. People would say, I'm looking for new high level content, and people would say, well, Drunkenfell might be good for you. But
Mm-hmm.
there was no technical discussion about
Okay.
the Drunkenfell server.
Yeah.
So that in and of itself is showcases exactly what we had been talking about here. Other ace admins of different servers help each other, and then Drunkenfell is left out in the cold to fend for themselves.
Right.
You can
That's
just look through the chat history and see that.
okay. Yeah.
And
Go on.
yeah, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna wrap up. Go on.
Well, that's what's so frustrating. Why would the Drunkenfell people not want to be a part of that community that can help support them and help them solve their problems? It doesn't make any sense whatsoever. They're just focused on this idea that those people who are all friendly and helping each other are the competition.
That is ridiculous. Okay. Well, I mean, I don't know what else to say about that other than eh, we the idea of having an end game Asheron's Call server that actually continues to progress. Oh boy, connection to the server was lost. So that is the perfect time to end it, shouldn't it? Since my connection to the server was lost. um,
Yes.
yes, but uh, my point more than anything is that I think that, like, I really want Drunkenfell to succeed. The idea of doing what they do is something that I want to support them. But my only way that I can see of properly supporting them is to encourage them to do things properly.
Yeah, that's what it comes down to. They really just follow the rules that you're actually both required to use, and also just try to play a little bit nicer with everybody else who are working together. Like, there's no hostility that I can see that's anything serious. The only negative experiences that I have had in the Asheron's Call community these days is, unfortunately, it's from the Drunkenfell community.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think again, I don't want to end this on a negative note. Like I'm saying, the concept of having doing what Drunkenfell does is very appealing. I just want to see them do it right. Now, Con, thanks for showing up. Please tell people, aside from I can see myself in the in this box here, what like what do you do on your Twitch channel and stuff?
Well, on my Twitch channel, we talk about Linux free software. We also play games
Hmm.
on Linux, and that includes Morrowind, that includes Elder Kings,
Elder
different
Kings
other
is
things.
Elder Kings is Crusader Kings 2, but in Tamriel, right?
Yes, that is an Elder Scrolls mod for Crusader Kings and all kinds of other good stuff, RPGs and other fun things. And
Okay.
so if you enjoy any of those subject areas, I am now going to show myself and link there in the chat.
Okay.
And so you might see Asheron's Call occasionally if we're ever going to play this again.
Mhm. I intend on it. Maybe not this week because I got a bunch of other stuff I want to do, but definitely soon. All right. Well, I'm going to hop on